against the Bills. Shedeur will start against the Bills. Deshaun will play in the third quarter, and Dylan play in the fourth. So it just flipped. I'm not ready to say it yet. I mean, the plan was always to get through the Bills game, switch up who was going to start, who was going to play in the second half, and then we'll go from there. Every day is important. Monday's going to...
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
There is a quarterback battle happening in Cleveland right now that the entire NFL is watching, and it is not close to being settled. 2 quarterbacks, 1 job, and a coaching staff that is refusing to blink. Todd Monken has a plan, and what makes it genuinely fascinating is that he is not letting one bad throw, 1 fumble, or 1 ugly box score shake him off of it. Not after the Bears game, not after the interception, not after any of it. Cleveland lost that game 34-10, and yet Monken walked out of that stadium looking like a man who saw exactly what he needed to see. Because here is the thing about this Browns quarterback competition that most people are completely missing. This is not about who looked better in one half of preseason football. This is about who is going to be standing under center in Jacksonville when the lights are actually on and the season is actually on the line. Shadeur Sanders is getting the start against Buffalo. Deshaun Watson already had his shot, and what happens next could flip everything. Drop a comment right now. Type Watson or Sanders. 1 word. Let me know where you stand before we go any further.
And we had some other things called, and they got us out of it. I mean, again, we were trying to stay as simple as we can, but yet give the quarterbacks opportunities to play and to function. And, we didn't game plan for Chicago. We certainly wanted to run the things that our quarterbacks felt comfortable with and where we were at.
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
Todd Monken is not a coach who makes decisions based on emotion, and that is probably the most important thing you need to understand about this entire situation before anything else. When Cleveland wrapped up their first preseason game against Chicago and walked back into that locker room down 34-10, there were plenty of reasons for a head coach to panic, pull the rotation, point at the box score, and make a statement. Monken did none of that. He walked to his podium and confirmed exactly what he had already said before the Browns ever stepped on a field this preseason. Shadeur Sanders would get the start against the Buffalo Bills. Deshaun Watson would handle the third quarter. Dylan Gilliams would close things out in the fourth. The plan did not change because the plan was never about results. It was about evaluation, and that distinction matters more than most people are giving it credit for. Think about what it actually takes for a coach to stay the course after his team gives up 34 points and his highly touted rookie quarterback throws an interception late in a loss. The outside noise after a game like that is deafening. Analysts are clipping the overthrow. Fans are flooding comment sections. Former players are offering hot takes before the film has even been broken down properly. And right in the middle of all of that, Monken is sitting in a film room somewhere looking at every single rep both quarterbacks took and measuring it against a set of criteria that goes far deeper than yards and touchdowns. He has talked openly throughout training camp about what he is actually looking for in this competition. Command of the huddle, decision-making when the play breaks down, how each quarterback handles pressure that was not accounted for in the original design of the play. Whether the ball is coming out on time or whether hesitation is creeping into the process. Those are the things that tell a coaching staff whether a quarterback can run a real NFL offense in a real NFL season. 1 interception or 1 clean half does not answer all of those questions, and Monken knows that. What makes his consistency here genuinely interesting from a football standpoint is what it says about where he actually is in his evaluation. If Monken had seen enough from Watson in Chicago to feel comfortable calling the competition over, there would have been no reason to run the rotation as planned. He could have found a way to frame it as giving Sanders a developmental opportunity while protecting Watson as the clear starter. Coaches do that all the time. They stick to a plan publicly while subtly letting one quarterback pull ahead behind the scenes. Monkin is not doing that. He is running this thing straight down the middle, which tells you that after one preseason game, he genuinely does not have a clear answer yet, and he is not pretending otherwise. Gridiron Ground has been tracking this competition from the jump, and if you have been following along, you already know that this battle has been building for weeks. The Browns came into training camp with more genuine uncertainty at quarterback than almost any team in the league, and rather than paper over it with a premature decision, Monkin has leaned into it. He wants to see both quarterbacks play. He wants to see them handle adversity in live game situations. He wants data, not gut feelings. And that approach is either going to produce the right answer before the regular season begins, or it is going to create a situation where Cleveland heads into Jacksonville without a clear number one, which is a scenario the entire fan base is quietly dreading. The Bears game gave him a first data point.
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
It was messy, it was imperfect, and it raised as many questions as it answered. But that is exactly what first preseason games are supposed to do. Now the focus shifts entirely to Buffalo. And the real question coming out of Chicago is not who won the night. It is who showed Monkin something he can build on heading into the biggest test of the preseason schedule. That answer is coming. But first, you need to understand what actually went down against the Bears. The final score was 34-10, and if that is the only number you walked away with from Cleveland's first preseason game, you missed almost everything that actually mattered. Preseason losses do not go on anyone's permanent record. Coaches know that. Players know that. And any honest evaluation of what happened in Chicago has to start by acknowledging that the Bears were running a real defense against a Browns offense that was not game planning for this specific opponent. Monkin has said publicly that the focus was not on Chicago. It was on giving both quarterbacks a controlled environment to operate in and seeing how they responded to real NFL speed for the first time this summer. By that standard, the game produced exactly the kind of film that a coaching staff can actually work with. The offense scored 10 points total, which sounds bad until you remember that the second and third units were on the field for most of the game. And the Bears have a legitimate defense coming off a season where they improved significantly up front. The Browns moved the ball in spots, stalled in others, and made the kind of mistakes that you expect to see from a team still working through its first live reps of the preseason. The offensive line had moments of genuine ugliness and moments where they gave both quarterbacks time to work. The run game was inconsistent. The receiving core had drops at key moments that extended drives into punting situations. None of that falls entirely on either quarterback. And any evaluation that puts all of that on Watson or Sanders without accounting for the supporting cast is not a serious evaluation. Cleveland's only real offensive highlight of the night came on a 14-yard touchdown run from rookie receiver Casey Conception on an end-around play late in the first half. It was a well-designed schematic play, not a product of sustained offensive rhythm, and it came in the middle of what was otherwise a night where the Browns' offense never quite found its footing for extended stretches. The defense had its own issues, giving up chunk plays at...
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
Key moments, and allowing the Bears to build a lead that made the second half feel like garbage time by the time Sanders was trying to work through his drives in the third quarter. Context matters when you are evaluating individual performances. And the context here is that this was a rough night for the entire team, not just the quarterbacks. What the game actually gave Monkin was a look at two very different quarterbacks under the same conditions, which is exactly what a joint evaluation process needs. He got to see Watson operating with experienced starters around him in a clean, scripted first half. He He got to see Sanders playing with a mixed second unit in situations that were less controlled and less comfortable. He got to see how each player handled a sack, a turnover, a broken play, and a sideline moment when the game was not going the way it was drawn up. Those are the moments that live in the film room long after the box score has been forgotten. And those are the moments that are going to shape what Monkin says on Monday when he meets with the media again. The raw numbers tell a version of the story, but the version that matters is on the tape. And before anyone calls this competition in either direction, you need to look at both halves honestly and separately, because they tell two genuinely different stories about two genuinely different quarterbacks trying to solve the same problem from different angles. Let's start with Watson, because his half is the one that set the tone for everything that came after it. Deshaun Watson stepped onto that field in Chicago carrying more than just a game plan. He was carrying almost 2 years of absence, a surgically repaired Achilles, a public narrative that has been almost entirely negative for the better part of 3 seasons, and a locker room that needed to see him move and function like the quarterback he used to be before any of the other stuff became the story. That is a heavy thing to carry into a preseason opener. And what he delivered was not perfect, but it was legitimately encouraging in ways that the box score alone does not fully capture. Watson finished the half 11 of 15 for 126 yards. He moved the offense on 2 scoring drives. He was sharp on his quick throws, connecting efficiently behind a pocket that held up better than expected in the early going. He found his checkdowns when they were there, did not force anything into coverage, and generally ran the operation with the kind of calm, collected demeanor that coaches want to see from a veteran who has been away from live action for this long. For stretches of that first half, he looked like the Watson that Cleveland traded a historic haul of picks to go get. Decisive, accurate on short to intermediate routes, in command of the huddle. Subscribe to Gridiron Ground if you want to stay ahead of every development in this situation, because this competition is moving fast and the updates are coming daily. Now back to Watson, because his half was not without its problems, and the biggest one came on a play that has nothing to do with his arm. Watson took a sack in the second quarter and fumbled the football. It was a clean hit. He held onto the ball too long, took the pressure, and could not secure it when he went down.
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
Now, fumbles are the kind of mistake that coaches hate more than almost anything else because, unlike an interception, a fumble is usually about feel and instinct rather than a read that went wrong. Watson's fumble gave the Bears the ball and stalled what had been a solid drive. It was not the kind of catastrophic mistake that ends a quarterback evaluation, but it was a live ball turnover in a game where ball security was supposed to be one of the core things being tested. And in a competition this close, every mistake gets magnified. What Watson did for the rest of his drives after the fumble matters just as much as the fumble itself. He did not let it rattle him. He came back to the huddle on the next series and ran the offense the same way he had been running it before the sack. That is something coaches notice. Competitive resilience under pressure, the ability to move past a mistake without letting it bleed into the next play, is one of the intangible markers that separates quarterbacks who can manage a season from quarterbacks who fall apart when things get hard. Watson showed that resilience. And for a player who has had as many questions swirling around him as Watson has over the past few years, that matters. The injury history and the long layoff are still legitimate concerns that no single preseason half is going to erase. Watson has not played in a real game since suffering that Achilles injury, and the time away from live reps at this level is something that takes longer than one half of football to fully shake off. His arm was fine. His pocket awareness was mostly solid. But the fumble and the knowledge that he has had accuracy and interception issues in other camp practices keep this from being a clean victory lap. Watson did enough to maintain his standing in the competition. He did not do enough to end it, And that is exactly where Monkin needs him to be heading into the next evaluation. Because if Watson had been perfect in Chicago, there would be no real reason to hand Sanders the start in Buffalo. The fact that this thing is still genuinely open is a direct result of what both quarterbacks showed and failed to show on the same night. Shadeur Sanders walked into that third quarter at Soldier Field carrying a different kind of...
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
Weight than Watson did in the first half. Watson carried experience and expectation. Sanders carried potential and uncertainty, which is a much harder combination to manage when the game is already out of hand, and the defense you are facing knows it does not have to respect the scoreboard anymore. The Bears' defense in the second half was playing loose, aggressive, and without the same conservative approach that defenses often use early in preseason games when they do not want to give away scheme. Sanders was getting real looks, and what he showed in those looks was genuinely split down the middle in a way that makes this competition as interesting as it has ever been. He finished 6 of 11 for 79 yards. The completion percentage is below where you want it. The yardage is modest. And the interception is the image that most casual observers are going to attach to his night. But if that is where your evaluation stops, you are missing the plays that actually reveal what kind of quarterback Sanders might become at this level. His very first completion picked up a first down and came on a throw that required him to go through a quick read and trust his receiver in traffic. It was not a layup. It showed instinct. And later in his time on the field, he uncorked a 35-yard throw on a 3rd and 13 situation that stopped conversations across the league when the clip started circulating. That throw matters beyond the yardage. 3rd and 13 is a down and distance where most young quarterbacks playing with a second unit in the second half of a preseason loss take a safe check down, get 5 or 6 yards, and punt. Sanders identified the look, trusted the route, and drove the ball down the field against a real Bears defensive back in a situation where the easier play was right there available to him. That kind of aggression and willingness to attack downfield is not something you can develop in a quarterback through scheme or coaching if the instinct is not already there. It is either in a player or it is not. And on that one throw, Sanders showed that it is in him. But then came the interception, and this is where the conversation gets complicated. Sanders overthrew Malachi Clay badly enough that there was no question about what happened. It was not a coverage breakdown. It was not a miscommunication. The ball sailed. Beanie Bishop Jr. picked it off in the fourth quarter and the drive was over. What makes this particular mistake significant is not just that it happened in a preseason game. It is that accuracy and ball security were the two things that scouts and evaluators flagged throughout Sanders' draft process and into his rookie season. The overthrow fits a pattern that Cleveland's coaching staff is aware of. And in a quarterback competition where every rep is being logged and measured, a mistake that confirms a known concern is a different kind of problem than a random one-off error. 3 of Sanders' drives in Chicago ended without points, 1 turnover on downs, 1 3 and out, 1 interception. The explosive plays were real and the arm talent flashed at exactly the right moment on that deep ball. But the inability to sustain drives and the costly mistake at the end of his time on the field created a narrative around his night that overshadows the good things he did. That is the challenge Sanders is going to face heading into the Buffalo game. He needs to show that the interception was an isolated mistake and not a symptom of the same issues that followed him through parts of his rookie year. Monkin has already given him the opportunity to answer that question. And whether Sanders responds to the adversity or lets it compound is the most important football storyline in Cleveland right now. Everything that happens in Buffalo is being watched. When you line up the stat lines from the Bears game side by side, the surface reading is relatively straightforward. Watson was more efficient, did not throw an interception, and moved the ball more consistently when measured against the number of dropbacks he took. Sanders had more flash but also more failure. If you are the kind of evaluator who lives and dies by efficiency metrics, Watson wins the night on paper. But Monkin has been clear from the beginning of this process that a quarterback competition evaluated entirely on surface statistics is not a real quarterback competition. It is a spreadsheet exercise, and great coaching decisions are not.
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
Not made from spreadsheets alone. What the numbers actually tell you when you dig deeper is that both quarterbacks are operating in different situations, with different supporting casts, against different competition at different points in the game. Watson had the first-team offensive line in front of him for most of his half. Sanders was working with a mixed unit that had fewer established veterans around him. Watson got the scripted opening drives where the play calling is designed to set up quick, comfortable completions. Sanders inherited a situation where the game script was already broken and the defense was teeing off. None of that changes the results on tape, but it does change what those results can fairly tell you about either quarterback's readiness to start a regular season game. The yards per attempt comparison is worth looking at. Watson averaged just over 11 yards per attempt on the night, which is genuinely impressive for a first preseason outing. But most of those completions were on short to intermediate routes in a clean pocket, which inflates that number in a way that does not fully reflect what he would face against a defense that is game planning specifically to stop him. Sanders' yard per attempt was lower, but the deep ball completion skews the conversation in the other direction, because it showed a willingness to push the ball down the field that Watson has not consistently demonstrated through camp. Two quarterbacks, two different approaches, and two different sets of numbers that each tell a partial story. The turnover comparison is the cleanest data point available. Watson had one fumble. Sanders had one interception. Both quarterbacks committed one live ball error in their respective halves, which means the turnover differential is not the smoking gun that would end this competition. If Watson had a clean half with no fumble, the conversation might be very different right now. But he did not. And that matters when you are trying to decide which quarterback gives your team the best chance to protect the football and execute a game plan without self-inflicted wounds. What Monkin is ultimately measuring is not the stats from one game. He is measuring trajectory, which quarterback is trending in the right direction as the preseason progresses, which one is making fewer of the same mistakes from practice to practice and from game to game, which one is speeding up his mental process and getting the ball out faster when the play design is not producing a clean first read. Those are the questions that a few weeks of training camp reps and 2 preseason games are designed to answer. And right now, neither quarterback has answered them definitively. The Bears game gave Monkin useful information about what each player does under real pressure. It did not give him a clear winner, and that is exactly why the Bills game exists. If you are watching this and you have a strong opinion about which quarterback deserves the start in Jacksonville, drop it in the comments right now. Gridiron Ground wants to hear your take, and the debate in this comment section has been one of the best in this community all summer. One word: Watson or Sanders? Tell us where you stand and tell us why you are so sure. Everything that happened in Chicago now becomes context for what is about to happen in Buffalo. And the Bills game is a fundamentally different kind of challenge than what either quarterback faced against the Bears. This is not a soft preseason opener against a team that is treating it like an extended practice. The Bills are a legitimate AFC contender with one of the more dangerous defensive units in the conference. They are going to treat a joint practice session and a preseason game with the kind of competitive intensity that turns these evaluation windows into real football moments. And for Shadeur Sanders, who is getting the start, that shift in competition level is the most significant thing that has happened to him since he was drafted. The joint practice on August 20th deserves as much attention as the game itself, and it is actually the more important evaluation opportunity of the two. Joint practices against a live opponent are where you see things that scripted preseason games sometimes hide. The defensive backs are not running vanilla coverage shells. The pass rushers are not taking the outside rush lane and calling it a day. The linebackers are disguising their drops and pressuring quarterbacks into quick decisions in a way that a standard training camp practice simply cannot replicate. When Sanders lines up against the Bills' defense in that joint session, he is going to see exactly the kind of looks that an opposing defensive coordinator would draw up specifically to expose his weaknesses. If the scouting reports on Sanders' flag accuracy issues and decision-making under pressure, the Bills' defensive coaching staff has access to those same reports. They are going to test him on the things he struggled with in Chicago. They are going to put pressure on his ability to identify coverage pre-snap and get the ball out on time before the rush gets home. They are going to contest the deep ball throws that Sanders had success with against the Bears and make him prove that the 35-yard completion was not an isolated shot against a caught-off-guard secondary. That is what elite defensive preparation does. It finds the seam between what a quarterback can do and what he has reliably proven he can do. For Sanders, this joint practice is simultaneously his biggest opportunity and his most significant threat this preseason. If he handles the Bills' defense well in that session and carries that confidence into the game itself, the momentum in this competition shifts in a way that would be very hard for Watson to recover from with only the Patriots' preseason finale left before Jacksonville. A Sanders who looks sharp, decisive, and accurate against Buffalo's first-team defense is a Sanders that Monkin cannot ignore when he sits down to make his final call. The arm talent has never been the question. The question has always been whether Sanders can pair that talent with the kind of mental and technical consistency that an NFL coaching staff can trust when the season is real and the margin for error is zero. Watson, meanwhile, gets the third quarter against Buffalo, which is its own kind of pressure. A veteran taking second-half reps in the preseason is not the same as a starter commanding a game plan. Watson needs to use his third quarter against the Bills to remind the coaching staff why his experience and his command of the offense give Cleveland a safer floor in a season where the expectations around this franchise are not particularly forgiving. If Watson has another fumble or shows the kind of accuracy inconsistency that has followed him through camp, the case for keeping him ahead of Sanders gets harder to make. Both quarterbacks are being watched in Buffalo. And the result of that week, not just the game but the entire joint practice experience leading into it, is going to shape what Monkin says when the media asks him the question everyone is waiting to hear answered. The road from Buffalo to Jacksonville is shorter than it looks on the calendar. After the Bills game, Cleveland gets one more preseason opportunity against the Patriots before Monkin has to make his call and lock in his Week 1 starter. That means Sanders has two significant evaluation windows left, and Watson has at least one more chance to make a definitive statement before the decision is taken out of both of their hands. The math of this situation is not complicated, but the football inside the math is as layered and uncertain as anything Cleveland has faced in a quarterback room for years. If Sanders goes to Buffalo and delivers the kind of performance that the arm talent suggests he is capable of, the pressure on Monkin to name him the starter immediately is going to be enormous. Social media will be on fire. The fan base will be louder than it has been all summer. And the analysts who have been watching this competition closely will start filing columns about whether Cleveland should just hand the job to the rookie and build around him for the long term rather than continuing to invest in Watson's comeback story. That kind of outside pressure is something Monkin has said he is not going to let drive his decisions. But coaching staffs are made up of human beings, and human beings respond to momentum whether they intend to or not. Watson has something valuable that Sanders does not have yet, and it is not just experience. It is the established relationship with this offense and the installed knowledge of what Monkin is trying to build schematically. Watson understands the timing of the route combinations. He knows how the offense is supposed to breathe at different points in a game, and how to manage the ball in situations where the smart play is to take the checkdown and set up the next possession rather than force a shot down the field. That game management IQ is the thing that keeps veteran quarterbacks competitive with younger players who have more raw physical tools. And if Watson can put together a clean Bills outing and follow it with a sharp final preseason game against New England, the argument for his experience and reliability becomes genuinely compelling. Gridiron Ground will be covering every single development in this competition as it plays out over the next 2 weeks. If you have not subscribed yet, this is the moment to do it because the updates are going to be coming fast, and the take that you form after reading this might be completely different from the one you have after Buffalo. The football is going to answer questions that analysis alone cannot touch, and you want to be here when those answers start coming in. What Monkin needs to see from Sanders before Jacksonville is relatively simple to describe and extremely difficult to deliver. He needs to see the ball coming out on time. He needs to see Sanders going through his reads under pressure without locking onto his first option and forcing a throw into coverage. He needs to see the kind of footwork and mechanics in the pocket that prevent the accuracy breakdowns that turn into overthrows and interceptions at the worst possible moments. He needs to see that the interception against the Bears was a correctable mistake and not a recurring symptom. And he needs to see all of that against a Bills defense that is going to make every single one of those things as hard as possible. The competition has always been Watson's to lose and Sanders to win. Watson came into camp with the established veteran status and the installed relationship with the offense. Sanders came in as the disruptive force, the young arm that forces the evaluation to stay honest even when convenience would push a coaching staff toward the familiar choice. That dynamic has not changed. But what has changed after Chicago is that both quarterbacks know exactly where they stand in the eyes of this coaching staff. Neither one is safe. Neither one is finished, and the next 2 weeks are going to tell us more about Cleveland's future at quarterback than the last 2 years combined. Step back from the individual performances for a moment and look at what this quarterback competition actually represents for the Cleveland Browns as a franchise. This is not a normal preseason evaluation. This is a team that has spent years trying to build around a quarterback who has not played a full healthy season in what feels like an eternity. A player who cost them a historic amount of draft capital, and whose career has been defined more by absence and controversy than by the on-field dominance that once made him one of the most coveted players in the league. Watson's injury history and the long layoff before this preseason even began are legitimate structural concerns that go beyond anything that happens in a single preseason game. At the same time, Sanders represents something that Cleveland has not had in a quarterback competition in a very long time. Genuine upside, unpredictability, a player who could develop into something that the franchise did not have to pay a catastrophic price to acquire. He came to the Browns through the draft, which means the investment in him is manageable, and the risk of running the offense through him for a full season is not the kind of organizational bet that could set the franchise back half a decade if it goes wrong. That is a fundamentally different risk calculation than the one Cleveland made when they went and got Watson. And whether the people running this organization are willing to say it publicly or not, that calculation is sitting in the room every time Monkin and the front office talk about what they want this quarterback battle to ultimately produce. The fan base is split in a way that reflects the real tension inside the building. Watson supporters point to experience, command, and the physical tools that were elite before the injury. They argue that a healthy Watson operating within Monkin's system has the ceiling to make Cleveland competitive in an AFC North that is going to be brutally difficult this season. Sanders supporters point to arm talent, youth, And the idea that committing to a young quarterback now gives the organization a path forward that does not depend on Watson staying healthy for a full 17-game season, which has not happened in years. Both arguments are legitimate, and the fact that both arguments exist simultaneously tells you exactly how uncertain this situation actually is. What Monkin's approach has done, intentionally or not, is force this competition into the open in a way that the entire league can see. Other organizations facing this kind of quarterback uncertainty tend to make a quiet decision in the first week of camp and frame everything after that as development for the backup. Monkin has done the opposite. He has created a genuine competition, run it transparently, and refused to let the external noise push him into a premature call. That is either a sign of a coaching staff that genuinely has not made up its mind yet, or a sign of a coaching staff that knows exactly what it wants and is using the competition to pressure both quarterbacks into proving it right. Either way, the process itself has been remarkable to watch. What happens in Jacksonville on opening day is still weeks away, but the decisions being made in the next 2 weeks in Buffalo and then against New England are going to set the table for everything that follows. Cleveland needs a quarterback who can manage a game, protect the football, and give the offense enough to work with that the defense is not constantly being put in impossible situations. Whether that quarterback turns out to be Watson or Sanders is the question that this preseason was built to answer, and it has not been answered yet, but it is about to get a whole lot closer to an answer in Buffalo. Here is where everything stands coming out of Chicago and heading into Buffalo. Todd Monken has a plan, and he is running it without apology. Deshaun Watson showed enough in the first half of the Bears game to stay relevant in this competition, but not enough to end it. Shadeur Sanders showed enough flash and enough flaw to keep the conversation alive and make his Bills start feel like the most important individual audition of his young career. Neither quarterback gave Monkin the clean answer he needs before Jacksonville, and that is exactly the point. This competition is not about who looked better in one half of preseason football. It is about who can handle the weight of a real NFL season, protect the football when it matters most, and give the Cleveland Browns an actual chance to win games in the AFC North. The Buffalo test is coming fast. The joint practice is coming even faster. And Sanders has an opportunity in front of him that very few rookies get this early in their careers. Whether he seizes it or stumbles again is what this whole story is building toward. Drop your prediction in the comments right now. Who starts for Cleveland in Jacksonville? Watson or Sanders? Gridiron Ground wants to know. If this breakdown gave you something to think about, hit that like button and make sure you are subscribed because this competition is far from over and the next update is going to change the conversation all over again. Stay locked in.